This is the I Am Salt Lake podcast, showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 8 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name is Chris Hollifield. You can connect with us on the internet at iamsaltlake.com. It's going to have all the contact information up top. Hit that, connect with us, drop us an email, tell us what you think of the show, and while you're there, listen to some of our previous episodes of the podcast. In this episode, episode 8, I had a chance to sit down with Jeff at the SLC Bike Taxi. You've probably seen them riding their bikes around in downtown Salt Lake City, and you've kind of wondered what they're all about. Well, in this episode, you can find out all about them because Jeff sure shares everything you need to know. Wow, I mean, there is a lot of history with this group of guys, and I don't know about you, but after I had a chance to talk to Jeff, I kind of wanted to quit my job and become a bike taxi pedicab driver because it seems like a heck of a job, and I'm sure it is always different. Like he says, every night they work a little bit different story. So yeah, take a listen to this episode. It's killer. I really appreciate Jeff for sitting down with me and talking and telling me his story and kind of how the SLC Bike Taxi came to be. Anyways, let's back up a little bit. Please connect with me on the internet. iamsaltlake.com. Connect with me on Twitter and Facebook. Become a fan of ours on Facebook. And drop me an email. Tell me what you think of the show because, you know, this is definitely a very unique show in the fact that it's kind of targeting such a local area of Salt Lake. So if you're outside of Salt Lake, I appreciate you listening. But if you're in Salt Lake, get in touch. I mean, we'll get in touch no matter where you're at, really, honestly, because, I mean, this is episode 8, and I need to hear some feedback. I need to find out what you're thinking of the show. So drop me an email. Call us on the voicemail. Tell me what you think of the show. I mean, maybe it's a waste. Maybe I'm just putting time in for nothing. I don't think so because I'm having a great time doing it, and I guess that's really what matters with it. Because I mean, Salt Lake City, it's been an awesome city for me. I haven't lived here my whole life. I've lived here, probably altogether about half my life, and it's been a fun city. I mean, it's really an awesome city, and if you live here, you know what I'm talking about. There's always a lot of killer stuff going on. So, I mean, it's October now. We're going into fall. We're going into winter. I want to keep doing this podcast, but I want to hear what you have to say. So drop me an email. Tell me what you think of the show. Let's get in touch because that's what this is all about, communications. All right, if you're on the website, you notice on the far right-hand side, you can connect with us on iTunes. You could subscribe so you don't miss a show. I'm trying to put this out weekly, so don't miss an episode. I'm kind of testing the waters. At the beginning of the week, getting a new episode up. What works for you? Tell me what works for you. If middle of the week for a new episode works better, tell me that. Right now I'm just kind of building the roster up of people that want to come on the show, and it's been fun. So if you want to come on the show, if you're a local shop owner, if you run an Etsy shop, if you organize festivals, if you're a local band, drop me an email. Tell me what you got because I'll talk to just about anybody that's kind of helped make the city what it is. And what else do we got? You can listen to us on Stitcher Radio. Check it out on there. Leave some comments. Leave some reviews. Help us get our ratings up there. Tell some friends about us because I'm trying to build my audience base up. So anyways, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to play the conversation I had with Jeff over at SLC Bike Taxi. Listen to the interview. Tell me what you think of it because I really had a great time with it and I learned a lot. And I don't know about you, but I want to hop in and get a tour of Salt Lake City because they're going to probably show me places that I've never been. So anyways, this is Jeff over at SLC Bike Taxi. My name is Chris Hollifield. Get in touch. Tell me what you think of the podcast. So anyways, we're here at the Salt Lake City Downtown Public Library. I'm talking with Jeff of the Salt Lake City Bike Taxi pedicabs. Tell me exactly how long have you been around pedicab? Salt Lake City Bike Taxi been around?
We started up in 2009, and we've been growing pretty much every single year. We've been getting busier and busier.
And how many bikes do you have on the streets right now?
Right now we have 4 pedicabs.
4 pedicabs. And so let's just pretend for a minute that whoever's listening isn't familiar with what a pedicab is. How would you describe it?
Most people think that we're a rickshaw, which technically a rickshaw is a person that would carry a cart behind them that would have either 1 or 2 people on it. We're similar to that in that we're a trike, a 3-wheeled bicycle that has a driver up in front and then can carry either 2 or 3 people behind them on a seated bench.
So it's okay. So you can hold 2 or 3 people. Have you ever done more than that, or is it, I mean, legally? I guess you're not probably supposed to. I guess. So
yeah, we're only supposed to keep 3 people.
We'll keep it at that. And I mean, are you used more as for tourists, or would you say that locals use you, or who actually uses your service?
I'd say first we started off more with getting people from point A to point B in the city, more locals. Locals supported us first. But mainly, I would say more in the evening hours, like say on Thursday nights doing the concert series in the summertime, Friday and Saturday nights getting people to and from restaurants, the bar scene at night. That's been our bread and butter for a lot of the time. The past 2 years, we've kind of expanded more into the tourist side of things and doing more tours with out-of-state people, and that's more daytime. And then at nighttime, we shift gears and go back to getting people to and from restaurants and bars.
So you'll actually, somebody will be walking down the street and you'll say, hey, we'll offer you a tour of Salt Lake, or do people say, do you give a tour, or how does that work?
Usually tours, we just kind of, we can usually tell the people that want tours. You can usually tell the out-of-staters a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But usually the first question that we always ask is, or that we get asked, is how much are you? How much is this? And so that's such a broad angle because we don't know where people are going or what they intend as far as seeing in Salt Lake. So usually the first thing that we offer is a tour. So we usually tell people that, for 30 minutes, we charge them $40 to take them around Salt Lake in whichever area they want to see, whether it be Temple Square or going down South Temple Avenue.
And when you're giving them a tour, do you give them a little bit of an actual narrative of the city
Definitely.
as well?
Yeah,
or do you kind of just say, okay, look around yourself? Or?
No, we definitely, we point out the buildings and give a small history. Some of the drivers are LDS and some of the drivers are non-LDS, so the LDS ones have a little bit more history on the church that they like to give, but each driver is unique in their information that they like to convey. Generally speaking, we know when the buildings were built, who lived in the buildings originally, why they were built. We know a pretty much brief history on Salt Lake City and how it became a city from its upbringing.
And so now you mentioned when we were talking before, you're not from Salt Lake. How long have you lived here in Salt Lake then?
I first moved to Salt Lake in 2000.
2000, okay. So you've been around for a while. You've seen a lot of things in the city, I'm sure, and a lot of change. And now, what's the furthest you've driven somebody? I mean, what is it? I mean, it's pretty much however much money they're willing to spend, right?
Yeah, it does. My longest ride was actually when I first started pedicabbing. It was this girl's birthday, and I picked him up at Sandbar, which is now Inferno.
Okay.
So it's on Pierpont Ave in between 2nd West and West Temple. Picked them up there, and they wanted to go to 21st South and 9th East. And I took them to Smith's at 21st South and 9th East.
Well, and how many? I mean, that's a good. Well, probably.
I'd have to say it's
5-6 miles.
I'd have to say it's like 6 or 7 miles. It's about 7 blocks to a mile in Salt Lake.
And so, I mean, what would that cost somebody?
I think
to
they
do
gave.
something like that?
I told them to give me whatever they wanted to because that was when I was even. It was probably, I think that was my first year pedicabbing, and they gave me $80 to go that far.
Wow!
So it was a good nightcap for me. I eventually dropped them off around 3:30 at Smith's, and we started pedaling about 2 o'clock when the bar let out. Maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock. We started pedaling from downtown.
So this is the middle of the night. I mean, you're going all night long when you're out taxing people around.
Our busiest time is 1 o'clock to 2:30 in the morning.
Wow. And you have all 4 of your bikes going at that time usually.
Definitely, and that's when our drivers are making the most money.
And what made you want to start this? I mean, you came here and you saw maybe that there was nothing here, really, or what?
When I came here in 2000, it was for a massage school. I moved down here from Jackson, Wyoming, and I was just looking for a change in my life, so I went to massage school. And then I started working up at Snowbird. After bouncing back and forth between Jackson and Salt Lake for a while, I finally settled on being in Salt Lake permanently in 2005. And I eventually started working for Snowbird. And my summers were really slow. And a friend of mine that I know from massage school was like, hey, do you want to try something different in the summer and do pedicabs? And so I started off first with a business partner doing that in 2009. And within 6 months, I bought my business partner out, and I've been solo doing the pedicab since.
And would you say you stay pretty busy then?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, every year we keep getting bigger and bigger. I started off with 2 pedicabs, and now I'm up to 4. And the city this year allowed me to now have 2 more, so I can have 6 now on the road. So my city license is what really limits my number of pedicabs that I can have on the road.
Really? So the city actually tells you you can only have so many out at a time?
Pedicabs have been around in Salt Lake, from what my understanding is about 2005 through 2006. There was a company called Wasatch Pedicabs, and they operated around 5 pedicabs in Salt Lake. And they went under, I think, 2006, and I'm not sure why. I get conflicting answers, but from what I understand, something with Rocky or insurance was the problem that they went out. I think that they were mismanaged, but I don't know I don't know who owned it or anything about them. And then in 2008, there was another company that started up, and he lasted 1 year and wanted to get out of it. And that's when I stepped in, just after his 2008 season.
Wow. So when you're looking for new people to drive one of your bikes, I guess you would say, I mean, what kind of people do you look for? I mean, I'm sure they have to be
a unique person, one, physically strong to a certain extent, because they're pedaling around equipment that weighs about 200 to 300 pounds. Plus, when you start adding in people's weight, then it quickly goes up from there. Usually they're towing around 800 pounds. The bikes are geared for the purpose of carrying that kind of weight, so they have a lot of low-end torque and not so much high-end speed. So the fastest we can really go is about 10 miles an hour, maybe a little bit more, maybe 12. But really the person that we look for, so physically strong, they have to be extremely outgoing. Yeah. Because that's the only way they get rides. They're all independent contractors, so they're in charge of how much money they make. They're in charge of how much they charge the person to go a certain distance. So you negotiate your fare with that driver.
So it's pretty much similar to like a yellow cab or something like that. I guess they rent the bike for the evening.
Exactly.
And then they, however.
And then from there they make as much money as they can and be an independent contractor. And then, it's some of the drivers go off of a tip base. Some of the other drivers will go off of a defined rate. It all depends on that driver, and especially the time that you're catching that driver. If it's their busiest time, then their prices are going to go up slightly. If it's a slow time for them, their prices are going to generally go down. But usually like a person that has an entertaining quality about them, I guess would be a good way of describing the right person. They have to have a lot of correct attitude, positive attitude. They have to be very outgoing. They have to know bikes to a certain degree, like how one shifts, how to adjust it to make sure it shifts properly. I try to take care of as much maintenance as possible, but the more that they know about changing a flat tire, some simple things on a bike, that's definitely a plus when it comes to being a pedicab driver. We have women that drive for us, and we have men that drive for us. So it's, it can be almost anyone, but typically a strong individual helps out a lot, because they can endure a 6 to 8 hour shift.
Is that about how long a shift? About 6 to 8 hours?
Yeah, generally speaking.
Or however long they really want to be out for.
Exactly.
I mean,
to a certain degree, they're in charge of that. It's a very independent job, because you don't have a boss looking over you. Your rules are pretty straightforward, and not a long laundry list of rules as far as being a driver. You have to know how to follow the rules of the road. We have indicators, we have brake lights. We're set up exactly like a car.
Do you deal with problems with the traffic? I mean, do cars hassle you guys?
Not really, not at all. I think because our streets are so wide that we have an easy time dealing with cars. we usually can take up like half of a lane, and cars don't mind because there's usually 2 to 3 lanes on all the streets that we operate on.
So you can't.
Or there's a bike lane.
Yeah, you can't ride on the sidewalks, I guess, legally, right?
Legally, we're not allowed to be on the sidewalks, although we do ride on the sidewalks. We usually ride on the sidewalks as far as picking up fares, because we have a harder time picking up fares when we're on the street. But when we're on the sidewalk, we can ride slowly and talk to people that are on the street and get them to take a ride with us.
Gotcha. Do you think that people see the world differently when they take a pedicab versus a regular cab?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. One, your senses are exploding on a pedicab. One, you're having fun because you're rolling down at like a slow to medium bicycle speed, which is fun for most people. It's faster than walking. It's faster than running. And you're getting the sense of smell. You're hearing everything around you. It's eye-opening. It's like riding a bicycle and never having to worry about where you're going, who's stepping out in front of you. The driver is taking care of all of that stuff for you, so you can just sit back and enjoy the ride. People that get out of a club love to hop on the cab because, one, they're usually hot, and they love it. They love the fresh air, feeling the wind as they cruise along. There's so many pluses about riding in it. Especially just enjoying the environment around you. That's the main thing. In a car, you're kind of enclosed in your capsule, and you're smelling your driver, whoever's in your cab, or whoever was last in your cab. Are they a smoker? You could be smelling those things. Whereas in the pedicab, you have the outdoors that you're going to be smelling and seeing. It's a much better, much more fun experience.
I can imagine.
Like we get people that sometimes are like, we tell them it's $10 to $15 to get them to their hotel, and they say, well, that's twice as much as a car taxi. And those people are the ones that once they get in and take a pedicab ride, they have a memory, and when they go back home, they're like, I had this convention in Salt Lake and it was great, but man, I took this pedicab ride, and it stands out compared to they took a taxi cab ride to their hotel. It's a lot different of an experience. They have a memory now, instead of just what you would expect. Oh, I took a taxi cab ride from the convention center to the hotel.
Do you think it helps people get a different perception of Salt Lake City even? Because I think people, especially tourists, they come here and they have their vision in their head of what Salt Lake City is about and what it is, and then it's like they get in a pedicab and they get a tour, or they go a few blocks and they actually get to see life around them, and it's like, wow, this is just like every other city, really.
Yeah, it is, and they compare us to bigger cities too, which is kind of nice. Like they'll compare us to New York. Pedicabs are extremely popular in New York City. They're extremely popular in San Diego.
Yeah.
And the closest city that they're popular to, or popular at, is Denver. It also has a really big pedicab group that runs year-round also.
So you do run year-round?
We run year-round.
Wow.
We thought, like, the first 2 years that I did the pedicabs, we didn't run in the winter time. Last year, we ran full winter. We had maybe 2 or 3 days that we didn't go out last winter. And last winter was a lighter winter for the Salt Lake Valley, but...
that was an excellent winter last year.
Yeah, for us, it was perfect. We still have cold nights, and for the drivers, it's a challenge. Usually, like, when I was rolling around in the winter, my extremities got cold, so like hands and toes get cold. But I had a down jacket, and when I was stopped, I would just put on my down jacket and just worry about wearing that. And then when I got a ride, I'd stuff the down jacket underneath my seat so that when I pedal, I warm back up again. Well, when I'm sitting still, I get very cold.
I'm sure when you're pedaling around, that does keep you warm, actually, I would imagine.
Oh, it keeps you plenty warm.
Yeah.
You have to shed layers when you start pedaling, and then when you stop, you have to put layers back on to keep warm.
What's the craziest story? I mean, I'm sure you've encountered.
Do you want an X-rated story or an R-rated story?
Well, I mean, as R-rated is fine. I mean, as long as it's not too graphic.
I've had all kinds of stunts. Like, we're dealing with a lot of drunk people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what
I'm wondering.
Yeah, you can imagine the different things. I've had one of the craziest ones I'd actually have to say was picked up a couple, a guy and a girl. And the guy was, he was tipsy. His girlfriend was tipsy. And he was messing around with me by saying, we got maybe about 2 blocks into the ride. He's like, I don't have any money. I guess this is going to be a free ride. And his girlfriend thought that he was serious. And so she decided to jump ship. And so I'm pedaling. I had no idea.
She jumped off the bike.
She jumped off of the bike because she thought her boyfriend couldn't pay for the cab ride. And by her jumping off in her drunken state and the relative speed that I was going, she did not land on her feet. She did a tuck and roll and started rolling down the street and eventually got up and started running away from the pedicab. I stopped. Her boyfriend was like, "No, I was just joking," yelling to her. She kept running. He ended up paying me $10 and took off running after his girlfriend that was hustling down the street because she thought he couldn't pay for a ride. That was definitely a crazy one. I've never had anyone... Actually, I've had about 2 or 3 people I probably have jumped off the pedicab.
Have you ever had anybody on the pedicab start getting busy? Start heavily messing around?
Oh, definitely. There's one ride that I had that I'm pretty sure that there was some sexual activity happening behind me. And at that point, I just wanted to keep my eyes forward. I really didn't want to see what was going on.
I could imagine. So, I mean, have you had people, just not pay you, take off? They'll get in that and not pay you, or what?
I've had that only happen once.
Yeah, I mean,
believe it or not.
I would imagine people that take yours they know it's a little more unique of a business, and
exactly. They see how hard we work.
Yeah,
and they see a value in how hard we're working. And one of the other drivers I know has had someone skip before. We've also offered free rides before to people. So we have given free rides even. Sometimes you get the birthday girl that's out and she's a little tipsy. It's fun to just get her to the next bar or get her to her car, wherever they're going. We've also seen some things downtown that we really don't want to see, sometimes you find a person that's just not having a good night, like something bad has happened to them. And sometimes it's good just to get them to a safe place.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have some over-aggressive guys hitting on women, and it's easy to get those women away from those guys with a pedicab. We just offer them a free ride.
Just, hey, get in and let's go.
Tell them to get in, and they usually see us as an escape.
Yeah.
And we just get them a block away, and if they don't want to ride anymore, we just let them off, just so that they can get away from that bar or get away from that situation that they're stuck in.
What do you say to people that tell you, there's nothing to do in Salt Lake? I mean, honestly, because you being part of it, you're downtown, you see it. I mean, what is your response to that? Just
there's plenty of things to do. With the amount of stuff that happens at Gallivan Center, the stuff that happens at the numerous bars that we have downtown. Yes, they're spread out. We don't have a defined bar district like most cities because of the laws of Salt Lake and how close in proximity the bars can be. I still think that there's plenty of stuff to do, plenty of free things to do. You have gallery scrolls. You have, our Twilight concert series is now $5, but that's only $5.
Well, and it's amazing bands. I mean, I told some of my friends some of the bands that were playing, and I was like, it's $5, and they're like, what? I had to pay $50 when they played out here, and out east or something.
And it's wonderful, and that's on Thursday nights, and then Friday nights, Saturday nights. There's plenty of stuff to do downtown. Even today at Farmers Market, we go out and we pedal around Farmers Market getting people from the fruit stands out to their cars with, arms full of veggies. And we roll up and it's an easy $5 to just roll into their car. Simple. $5 to them is not much. And $5 to us, we only went 1 block, so it's easy. It's good money for us.
And you're helping the local economy, you're helping the local people.
Yeah. And we're ensuing have a different attitude in Salt Lake with a pedicab. I think it's very healthy. It's extremely healthy as far as the thought process when people see us. We are healthy people. I do think. All of our drivers tend to eat more organic. Not so much a vegetarian, but definitely leans a little bit more towards vegetarian. We definitely evoke a different feeling in Salt Lake. I'm glad that the pedicabs are here.
If someone was to give you $1 million to say, here, I'm going to give you $1 million to make Salt Lake City better, what would you do with that $1 million? I mean, I know that, or is that too tough of a question?
Yeah, I think that Salt Lake is on the right path. Like, we're having bike share now, and bike share is awesome. Like, where you can just park a car at, say, the library here, and then deposit it at another location around town, like a city building or one of the other businesses around town.
What exactly? Explain that. Actually, sorry to cut you off there, but I've heard about bike share. What is?
Like, bike share would be like you could scan your credit card and you'd be able to unlock a bicycle out of a stand and then ride that to another stand around town and be able to lock it back into that stand and go in about your business and then come back out and unlock the bike. I'm not sure the specifics on how exactly. I think it's by the hour that you rent the bike.
I might have to get them on the podcast here and find out about them. I mean,
I would go through Downtown Alliance because they're one of the more major sponsors.
Is it going? So it's going on right now. Then bike share has it started. You're not 100% sure.
I'm not sure. I saw them during the Bike Fest in May, and they were advertising for it. I know that it's supposed to start, I thought, this year, but I haven't seen them yet because I know that they're doing a couple around Temple Square. I know that they're going for the library, a lot of public places, a lot of places that you're going to have people say Delta Center, Energy Solution.
I get confused with that one too.
I know, ESA, yeah, but anywhere around these big public areas, Gateway Mall, City Creek Mall, all of that, they're going to be putting bike share stands in. Typically, the bikes, I have seen from Denver, they're red bikes, they're built by Trek, and they have parts that can't be removed, so they're theft-proof as far as, they look like a step-through frame, so a more traditional women's frame for both sexes, just because it's easier to get on a step-through frame rather than having to swing your leg over a top tube and really try to straddle a bicycle. So it can fit a wider range of height of people.
I think it's an excellent program. I mean, one thing I do notice about Salt Lake is it's a very bike-friendly city.
Exactly.
I mean, compared to a lot of other cities that I've been to.
Yeah, and they're even trying to do different bike lanes. There's a different bike lane on 300 East. If you notice the bike lane, say, between, I think the bike lane starts technically, 300 East has a bike lane the whole length, but the unique one starts about 5th South, and I think goes until about 9th South. But it's a unique lane in that the parked cars are closest to the lane of traffic, and the bicycle lane is tucked in closer to the sidewalk. So when the cyclists are riding, they actually have parked cars as a barrier between them and moving cars. Very unique, very European style of bike lane compared to our typical bike lane, which would have parked cars closer to the sidewalk and the bike lane out by the moving cars, sandwiched between parked cars and moving cars, which for a cyclist is a little bit more scarier because of car doors opening.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Have you dealt with, back to, I guess I kind of asked you before, if traffic and stuff has bothered you, have you dealt with any serious injuries with any of your bikers? Or?
No, not at all. We've been
That's
very
great.
lucky.
That's
knock on wood.
Yeah.
But, the speeds that we're going are a lot less than a bicycle. So, I'd say cyclists are more in danger than us. We have a lot of lights. We have LED lights underneath of our cabs.
Which is one thing I've noticed. I think it's really
lights.
killer. I think it's really killer.
Yeah, we did that mainly to just draw more attention from the cars and from people as far as picking up rides. But yeah, at nighttime, the green lights, I love how they
pop.
they accentuate the bikes a lot more. And then besides that, we have our LED lights as far as brake lights and running lights all the way around the cab too. And then we run with LED headlights.
What city, or even going out of the country, you mentioned New York and San Diego pedicabs was pretty big. What would you say the biggest city?
New York is definitely.
New York?
Yeah, New York has.
What about out of the United States?
I could be going on a limb. I think New York has 500 cabs.
Pedicabs?
Pedicabs, yeah.
And do you think other cities have limits to how many pedicabs they have, or is that more of a Salt Lake thing, or you don't know?
I'm not really sure as far as laws with other cities. I know Salt Lake, I think, is kind of holding the reins a little bit tight, but compared to other cities, Salt Lake has been very helpful to us as far as just the city in general. The attorney for the city, Jason, I forget Jason's last name, but super nice guy to work with. He's helped us out as far as getting more cabs allowed on the streets.
What would it take to get more? Just more people, or just
it's more, I think, than just seeing how it goes.
Okay.
Seeing what happens as far as the
pedicabs. You're
pedicabs.
bringing money to the city, so you think they would want as many out there as possible.
Exactly.
But I guess they got to have some sort of restrictions.
Yeah, I think it's more the restrictions on they're just not sure how to handle it.
Yeah.
They're not sure, that they don't really know what to expect, I think, from pedicabs because they are so unique. With taxi cabs, even taxi cabs in our city are kind of unique in that you can't hail a taxi cab technically in Salt Lake City.
Compared to other cities.
Compared to other cities, you just wave your hand and you get a cab to pull over. That's normal. Salt Lake,
See, and I didn't even know that one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Salt Lake has interesting cab policies. And right now, from what I understand, there's even some stuff going around about cab companies and what's allowed as far as being a shuttle service and being a taxi cab service. Because in a lot of ways, they're very similar. A taxi cab and a shuttle service are almost exactly the same. But there is technical differences between the two.
When Salt Lake City, or when Utah, I guess, when they dropped the private club thing, and did you see an increase there because people were going to more bars, possibly? Just curious. I guess.
That was the year that we started.
Oh, that was okay.
So it was that was one of the determining
how many years ago was that? That was quite
2009.
Oh, okay. Yeah, wow, that was
so
quite a few years ago.
It's not January. It was July 1st is our anniversary for our private clubs being nixed in 2009, and also I think our liquor laws slightly changed too, from an ounce pour to an ounce and a half pour at the bars.
So wow.
So that was all government. Governor Huntsman that changed all those laws for us.
That was a outdated law that needed to change.
I am so happy that finally changed. I know a bunch of skiers are happy that finally changed.
Yeah, that was rough because once you went to a bar, it's like you didn't want to go anywhere.
Exactly,
you didn't want to go to bar, and so I'm sure that
and there's a pub crawl that happens July 1st every single year that it celebrates that changing of the law, because before you couldn't do pub crawls, or it was very expensive to do a pub crawl, because if you're throwing down $10 to $20 at each bar and you hit 10 bars throughout the night, you're throwing down a lot of money, to just do a pub crawl. So now pub crawls can actually happen.
Well, interesting. A little bit about yourself. When you're not, let's kind of shift gears here and find out a little bit about yourself. When you're not doing pedicabs, when you're not running your business, what kind of stuff do you enjoy doing? What kind of hobbies do you have?
And usually everything seems to focus around cycling and snowboarding for me. Like, I moved to Utah, Wyoming in general, from New York State to more or less snowboard more. And Utah definitely has the best snow of all the places I've ever been to in the West. I've tried Wyoming, New Mexico, Colorado, Idaho, and still Utah has the best snow.
So you've traveled a lot. You've been around.
I've been around, yeah.
And that's great. I think a lot of people get kind of stuck in an area and they don't experience the world around them.
Yeah.
What's your favorite resort to go snowboarding?
Snowbird is my favorite.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I like the big mountain. I came down from Jackson, and Jackson has a great mountain up there, and so to try to find something that's even close to that, Snowbird's the closest.
So do you think we'll have a rough winter this year?
I hope it snows plenty. I hope it snows plenty in the mountains, and that we have no snow in the city. That would be the ideal.
No, that's kind of how I am. It's like, because I have to work outside at my other job, and it gets rough on the snowy days, It's like, I don't want to go outside, bundle up, but
yeah, even like one thing that I've been doing, I try to do as much as I can with bikes, and so my other project that I do is I repair bikes also.
Oh, excellent.
So that's kind of my history. That's why pedicabs made sense for me, is because I know how to repair bikes. So pedicabs fit in perfect with that as far as working on bicycles. And so my other job is I go around to people's houses and I fix their bikes that way. And I also have a small business that I sell utility bikes or cargo bikes.
And excellent. So how can somebody get in touch with you with that? Through...
My company there is called Mobile Bike Care.
Okay.
And it's mobileBikeCare.com. Okay. We're on Facebook, all of that typical stuff.
Okay, and I'll put links on that on the podcast webpage, with links on how to get a hold of you with that, because that's great. I even know myself, there'll be something wrong with my bike. It might be as simple as fixing a bike chain or something like that, but it's like, I'd rather just come over and fix it.
We're kind of a grassroots. We have two guys that go around and fix the bikes, and if we can't fix a bike on the spot, because we bring all of our tools with us and all the parts that we think that we're going to need for this repair, but if we can't do on the spot repair, we can actually tow your bike back using our cargo bikes, our utility bikes.
Do you sell bikes at all, like used bikes or anything?
We just sell our cargo bikes. They're brand new bikes, but they're Yuba bikes. The model's called the Mundo, and it's a 21-speed utility bike that can carry upwards of 500 pounds on the bicycle, and you can pretty much do anything with them. And one of the options is you can actually tow 2 bicycles with it.
That's great. So, I mean, that's definitely something.
We're trying to get people away from cars with either pedicabs or with driving a bicycle to get it repaired. We're just trying to take the car out of the equation the best we can.
Do you see people in Salt Lake driving less cars and riding more bikes? I see a lot more bikes on the road.
Definitely, I think so. I think cycling has grown a lot. When I first moved here, I went to massage school in 2000. I worked at Guthrie's bike shop that was downtown on 2nd South and like 250 East. And so I worked there. Now it's Vice and Estate Pizza is in that same building. But Guthrie's was a bike shop in there before. And I worked there, and definitely, like I said, seeing that whole area just grow up a lot more. There's a bike path on 2nd South, and there's a lot more cyclists out now. You see a lot more stands for bicycles outside of, like, say, bars. Like, one in particular I can think of is Bar X has a bicycle stand. Bar X and Johnny's on 2nd. They actually have a parking stall that used to be for cars. It's now bicycle parking only. Another one, Twilight Lounge, has that. Another one would be Squatters Brewery. They have a bicycle stand that used to be a parking space. So cycling is definitely growing in Salt Lake for sure.
Which, like I said, it's a bike-friendly city. So I mean, you really
we have wide streets, and we have a lot of bike paths. And also we have our light rail too that you can take bikes on as far as getting around in the city.
Excellent. Well, is there anything else you would like to add that we might not have touched on with SLC Bike Taxi, or you have a Facebook page?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. Like everything, if you go to our website, there's really no website for the Bike Taxi.
Okay.
Our website is SLC Bike Taxi, but it's just going to bump you right to Facebook. So SLC Bike Taxi.
And
Facebook.
That's the best way to get a hold of you if somebody wants to take the bike taxi around?
Usually, that's that way. Like as far as messaging on that, it's more like if you want to do like a special event.
Okay.
Like we do weddings, we do birthday parties, we do anything involving like a bachelorette party or even date night, going from like say the theater to a restaurant to a bar and then back to their car, something like that, or from a theater to a restaurant back to their car, anything like that. We can always do unique birthday, date, anniversary type of stuff.
And that's kind of what I was curious, is to get a hold of you would be the best through Facebook, I guess?
That would be the best for special events and that kind of stuff. Otherwise, our telephone number is 801-686-TAXI, which is 8294 as the end four numbers. But yeah, we've done weddings at the state capitol. We've even worked with nonprofits like Friends of the Great Salt Lake, and we're actually allowed to pedal around Tracy Aviary in Liberty Park, which they've never allowed a bicycle inside the Tracy Aviary. And it was basically a fundraiser for Friends of the Great Salt Lake Company. And it's a nonprofit organization. They wanted a way to shuttle people around a short distance. And so they hired us to shuttle people from the parking lot into the center of the Tracy Aviary where they had their get-together, their gathering.
Wow. Interesting. What's been your best event? I mean, is that kind of that's probably a tough question.
Yeah, best event.
I guess
I love them all because you just meet so many interestingly cool people out there, like whether it even be something as simple as a wedding or something as like a convention. Definitely our busiest convention or time period is the first weekend of August when Outdoor Retailer comes to town. Outdoor Retailer is definitely our busiest time, and we've acquired Camelback as a sponsor the last 2 years doing Outdoor Retailer. And they've been a wonderful company to work with, promoting their products during the outdoor retailer. And they've just been a wonderful company to work with, even though it's only for 1 week. It's great to work with them. They give us plenty of water bottles to keep us hydrated, give us backpacks to keep us hydrated that way when we're outside of pedicabbing. So it's fun. Even the different restaurants that we work with downtown too, getting people to there, a lot of fun. The local owners, that's who we like to work with the most, is the locally owned restaurants. I'd rather work with them any day than work with a corporately owned restaurant. Like those ones that I haven't had a corporately owned restaurant, even like I haven't accepted any offers from them. Only locally restaurants do I want to work with.
I love it.
During outdoor retail or during the different conventions, I work with national brands there. But as far as Salt Lake City, I only want to work with local brands.
That's exactly what I'm all about here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. It's good to promote the local economy first, and support that economy before, reaching out to, these other brands and these other places.
Well, excellent. I think that about. Where do you see your in 5 years? Or do you see it constantly growing? Or I guess it's.
I can see it growing. I can see even right now I can see upwards of having 6 to 8 pedicabs on the road in Salt Lake. Maybe Salt Lake could support more than that, but right now I could see it supporting more. My plan for next year is to add on the 2 more that the city's allowing me. And hopefully, if that goes all right, then they'll allow me to have up to 8.
What about going into places like Ogden or Provo or something, or is there just not the activity there?
To me, I really don't care too much about going to those other places. I'd rather leave that to the next person to go for those areas. Like, Provo might be able to work. I just wonder about the nightlife, because nightlife has been such an integral part of our business that you need people going from one place to the next.
Yeah.
Possibly that could have been some trouble that the last pedicab companies might have had, is that there wasn't that bar hopping crowd.
Yeah.
Going from one place to the next. Just being more sedentary in their own places.
And that's kind of back to what I was saying with that, is I found myself, when I used to go to a bar before, it'd be like, okay, what bar are we going to tonight?
Yeah.
It wasn't like, okay, let's go here and then see where the night leads us.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, we're going to go to this bar and this is where we're going to be at until 1, 2 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. That was your choice.
And then you take a cab to get home.
And it's nice. We even get people, like you said, even getting people home, like the people that live within the closer district, of near the downtown area. We get those people home.
Yeah.
Usually, I would say people that we take home, usually about 7th East is about as far as we'll go. West, we usually just go to about Gateway kind of area, get people to those condos there. South, we'll usually go as far as about 9th South. We usually don't try to get too far away from downtown, just because we know that we're not going to get a ride back from wherever we just went. If I go to 7th East, there's no one that I'm going to pick up and take them to downtown. So it's usually I ride all the way out with one person, come back empty to downtown, and then try to find my next ride.
Do you ever, do you ever drive down a street though, like 7th or something, or 9th even, and somebody says, oh, hey, give me a ride, or I guess not really, because they can't wave you down, and they can't.
Well, they can wave us down, but usually there's
exactly.
Like if I see someone that looks like they could use a ride, I'll definitely ask them, like, hey, do you guys need a ride? During the middle of the night especially.
Yeah.
You can usually pick out the people that you can tell you could use a ride. Either they're stumbling or there's something. Another person would be like someone that has like a knee brace on or an ankle brace. Like that's an easy person to pick out that could use a ride.
Yeah.
So we definitely try to we're independent contractors as far as drivers. So we're trying to make money.
Yeah.
We're definitely out there. Our goal is to make money when we're out there. Our goal is not to sit around and
it goes back to what you said about having to have outgoing people to put themselves out there and sell themselves.
Exactly. They're selling themselves, and they're selling the entertainment value of their personality in a lot of ways. We have music on the pedicabs at night, too. Each driver, can put whatever kind of music they want on. And so that influences their persona for the night. Yeah, we have some drivers that roll around with jazz on. We have
And the
others.
speakers are around the seats, or where?
We actually have the speakers right in front of the
right in front of
the passengers.
Excellent.
Yeah, so they're just small speakers. They're simple, rechargeable battery speakers. Okay. One of our drivers actually has a Bluetooth speaker that he uses, and so he doesn't even have any cables. His speaker's completely remote.
Wow.
And also with him, if you have your iPhone on you, you can plug into his Bluetooth and you can put on whatever music. He'll let you put the music on. So you can choose your own music while you're riding. I have a cord on my speaker, so they have to plug their iPhone into my cord, but I'll let them listen to whatever they want to listen to. Or I'll put Pandora on whatever they want to listen to.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy to customize the ride to whatever these people would want or whatever the customer wants.
Excellent.
And a lot of people really enjoy that. When they know that they can put their own music on, they're pretty stoked. Right. Especially when they're going a little bit of a distance. If it's going to last like 10 minutes to, say, a 15-minute ride, they're really stoked when they can listen to whatever music they want to.
You definitely have made my mind start thinking I got to take my wife on a date now.
Yeah,
exactly. Take her on a bike and cruise around downtown.
It's a blast. Yeah, everyone's surprised by how smooth it is. That's one thing. They're always like, man, this is a smooth ride, and they're just people that are kind of questioning it, or sometimes you have to talk into getting on the pedicab. Once they're on it, they just have a huge smile. It's one of the best things. It's like riding a bike with no work. You just get to sit back and enjoy the ride instead of having to worry about pedaling, sweating, braking, turning. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You can just sit back and hold your girl and ride around town.
You definitely have made me jealous of your job, I guess you would say.
Hey, we're always hiring. We're always hiring people.
Well, maybe I'll have to give you a call, right? Well, you definitely, I appreciate you coming on the show, and it's people like you that I think make Salt Lake City what it is, and if it wasn't for you, I don't think, who knows how Salt Lake City would be, like I was telling you, each person, I believe, makes Salt Lake City what it is, and if it wasn't for you, who knows what state it would be in and stuff.
Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
I think you definitely have a unique thing that you brought to the city, and I'd love to see you grow.
Yeah.
And I hope people listening will try you out and say, hey, you know what? I heard you on the podcast, and take me for a ride. Show me the city.
That'd be great.
And get in touch. I'll list the Facebook page and the phone number and. Your bike fixing business, all that. I'll get that on the website, and maybe we'll get some pictures on there, and we'll go from there.
Thanks so much for having me, Chris.
You bet. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, seriously, thank you so much, Jeff, over at the SLC Bike Taxi, for coming on the show and telling me your story, telling me all about your business. If you want to check more about them, click on the show notes, iamsaltlake.com, episode 8. It's going to connect you with their Facebook and Twitter. They're on Instagram as well. I'm going to put all that in the notes there. And if you see them out and about, say you're out this next weekend hitting the bars up and you see one of the SLC Bike Taxis, hop in, tell them you heard them on the I Am Salt Lake podcast, tell them to give you the tour of Salt Lake City, and kick them over, a few extra bucks as a tip and saying thank you for helping Salt Lake City what it is. Because without those bike taxis, I'll tell you what, the city probably wouldn't be what it is. So anyways, listen to older episodes of the podcast. Please leave me comments on the website, on the podcast. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can leave notes in the comments section. Tell me what you think of the shows. You can email me if you don't want to leave a comment. That's iamsaltlake@gmail.com. We have voicemail. That information is in the contact information as well. If you want to get on the show, if you want to be a guest, I want to put you in the roster because this show is going to be awesome. Also, if you like the project that I'm doing, if you like this, kick me over some spare change, $1 or $2, help keep the podcast alive. I got a donate button up there in the right-hand corner. And yeah, get in touch with me. Tell me what you think of it. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Really can't stress that enough. Right now, I'm doing pretty good with keeping this on the weekly basis. So hopefully I'm going to be here next week. Well, I know I'm going to be here next week. I got some awesome interviews lined up. Anyways, my name is Chris Hollifield. This is the I Am Salt Lake podcast. And remember, it only takes one of you guys to make a difference in this town. So get out and do it. Talk to you later, Salt Lake.